for joining me for Daily Spot with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about the book, The Art of the Dog. Our guest today is author Thomas Purcell, and I can't wait to talk to him about his book. Now, you guys know what I'm going to tell you to do now. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee, or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark.
Good morning, Dr. Chester. What an honor to speak with you.
I'm so glad to be on with you, and I cannot wait to talk about dogs with you. Even though it's a book, I believe that you're going to be able to share a little bit more with us because of your unique perspective, and I can't wait to do that. Now, before we talk about your book, though, there may be a few folks out there that are unfamiliar with who you are or with your work. So as I ask all of my guests who are on, what makes you you? What has made you the person that you are today?
Well, it's a few different things. One, I was very fortunate to be a railroad police officer for 30 years, and my last partner, being a Doberman pincer, taught me a lot. I think she was just slightly smarter than I was, so I had a great teacher, and she got me very involved in the world of dogs, taught me a lot about communication with the canines, our four-legged partners, and it evolved. And I got to say, she was my starting gate. It got very involved after I retired. I started wondering what I was going to do after retirement, and I became a volunteer in Wyoming County, New York, at the animal shelter there, and found out that I did have the capability and the gift of communication with dogs. But I also found out, as a side note, and I'm not sure how many people have ever heard of Qigong, but I am a Qigong practitioner. And Qigong mostly works with the art of energy. Okay, your acupuncture, your acupressure, your Reiki and yoga and the martial arts all come under Qigong. And by the way, if you ever want to look up Qigong, like Tai Chi, the word Qi just happens not to be C-H-E or C-H-I, but Q-I. So if you want to look up the word Qi on your internet, make sure you go Q-I and then for Qigong, G-O-N-G. So becoming a Qigong practitioner and using the art of energy, what really was just a wonderful time of my life is learning that if I communicated with energy with the dogs, it worked a lot better than using language. I just realized that, we use language to communicate as human beings, but how often do we screw that up? Dr. Chester, what I said isn't what you heard, kind of a thing, But I learned with the animals that if I was using energy, and I can get into that in a bit, but if I was using energy to communicate instead of being so demanding that they understand all our language words, I got a lot farther, a lot faster. And subsequently, what my job became at the Wyoming County shelter was to get the unadoptable dogs adoptable. And it was very successful, and I had a great time with it.
How beautiful! Oh my goodness, that is awesome. And let me tell you, it is a beautiful thing that the way in which God weaves the path for us to walk in our purpose. I have so many family members that are in law enforcement. My son aspires to be a canine officer, so I can totally and completely understand that those dogs are so special with their fellow officers. Some people say handlers. It really is a bond there. And the same way with our guys in the military that handle those dogs, they become part of your family, and it's just as rewarding, many people say, as having a human partner. So I can definitely understand that. And then you love on the dogs that need to be adopted. What a beautiful way. And you're right, Reiki is so important. And those who understand what that is, using Reiki with your pets is also rewarding for them as well, and can bring that sense of balance and peace to their little animal spirits as well. It is truly a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that it was just the next thing along your life's journey?
Well, I have to admit, I never planned on it. And, the old saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. I had no plans of doing this. It just kind of happened because of the experience, and I started accumulating all these stories, and a lot of them very incredible stories, that I figured I'd better share them.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. You never know which one of your stories is going to be the inspiration or the motivation for someone else to do whatever it is that they have been called to purpose to do. That's why I love doing this, because I get to share everyone's perspective, not only about their book, but about the bits of wisdom that they have gathered along the way. And there's a listener out there, be it that it's on radio or they're listening on one of the streaming platforms or in their car or at home. It's, wow, did you hear that? And it's like, look, light bulb goes on. So yeah, I totally understand that. Now, this book that you have written, The Art of the Dog, I like the title. Where did you, or how did you come up with such an interesting title?
Well, I would probably guess that the more we work with these guys and the many dogs that I did have the opportunity to work with, and I'm talking well over 100 before I wrote the book, it couldn't be anything other than art. Good Lord. What a craft. And as you read the book, you're going to find out what I'm talking about, because what does flying an airplane, I am a pilot, but what does flying an airplane have to do with training a dog? Or what does catching bad guys on a railroad have to do with training a dog? And all these diversified stories, it's truly an art. Couldn't come up with any better word than that. And plus, all the learning that I'm getting from each one of these creatures that I'm working with.
You have really probably introduced a new perspective to a few listeners out there. The more time that we spend with our pets, they do have a very beautiful way of not only calming us and bringing a sense of peace, but if we watch their behaviors, we can learn so much from them. As we think that we train them, if we spend enough time with them, I think they start to awaken an instinct within ourselves that we've forgotten or we pushed to the side, thinking that we know better. So yeah, I can definitely understand that. Now, you mentioned that you were a railroad police officer, that you were a canine officer with the railroad. How did you, just being a mom of someone involved in law enforcement, how did you get involved in that? Is that, being a police officer, is that something that you've always wanted to do?
Well, yes, I started with the Buffalo Police Department way back in 1976. Good Lord, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Anyway, so as time went by, I kind of had the opportunity to try out for the railroad police, and I found out that they did a lot better than the city police. Plus, you had incredible territory. I mean, I had hundreds of miles that I covered, and it was just talk about an art. Catching the bad guys out in the middle of the Adirondack Mountains or something like that was always a challenge, always fun, and got to work with some really talented police officers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think that people think about that there is so much land that you would have to cover because it's the railroad. That is so true. Now, you have done some things that have helped bring, probably, like I said before, a different perspective to dealing with our animals. What was the name of your canine officer that you worked with?
Sasha, she was a Doberman Pinscher. She was, like I said a little earlier, I always claimed that she was slightly smarter than I was. She probably literally saved my life at least 3 times. Got me out of numerous positions that were very uncomfortable. But she was always very helpful.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. Oh my goodness. Now, without giving it all away, can you tell, because the listeners know what I'm going to say, to find out the ending, you have to what? Purchase the book. But can you give us a little snippet, or give us an idea of what is the overall message or bits of wisdom that you share in the book, The Art of the Dog?
Okay, there's many lessons to learn because the book is several chapters of short stories. Not too short because some of them get really interesting, but different dogs that I worked with in different situations, different scenarios. I can give you like an example without giving too much away, but I still do a lot of court orders because I am a behaviorist, and I do go to homes and work with problematic dogs. But I do a lot of court orders. So I had a court order. The judge wanted to euthanize a husky who got away from an owner, got into a barn, and did a number on 4 calves, one of them fatal. It was just a bad scene. And I understand why the judge thought it was necessary, because people don't realize that husky dogs are fierce hunters. But I did some schmoozing and talked the judge into letting me have an opportunity at the dog. And I got to tell you, 5 years later, she's still with us and she's just fine. But what I did with her was actually part of her therapy, other than teaching the owner to be a better owner, was to take her to the scene of the crime. I had her come in the barn and literally lie with the other calves in the corral. And the poor thing, you would have thought her head was going to explode. She was so anxious. But we did this a few times, and what the theory was to desensitize her so that she wouldn't be so anxious when she got around the prey, and the cows are prey. So what happened was the light went off, and she got it. And like I said, 5, 6 years later, she's still with us. She's a happy dog. And she, thank God, does not get in trouble anymore.
Wow, I love that. And huskies are so beautiful. They are such a great dog. I had a neighbor that had 2 dogs, that had 2 huskies. And I remember when it was only the one, and she used to just say, my baby needs a friend. They're so much better. They're pack animals, and they're so much better when there's 2 of them, and they are so loving and kind, and people have no idea, how protective they are, like you said, and all of that. And I learned a lot. And I was like, great dog here, great dog. I definitely understand that. Thomas, it is time for us to go to break, but before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
That'd be great. The book is The Art of the Dog. Your author, yours truly, Thomas Purcell. And you can find it right on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Just go online. You can find the book very easily. Also, if you would like to contact with me because you have questions for your dog or whatever, or maybe I can help you out in any way, you can get me at my email, which is T as in Thomas, t.purcell143@gmail.com.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. We are back. Thank you so much for joining me for a daily response with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Thomas Purcell, and we're talking about his book, The Art of the Dog. Now, Thomas, you mentioned that, boy, did you enjoy your work as a railroad police officer, and you had an awesome four-legged partner. You are a canine officer, but then time passes, and it is now time for retirement. Now, of all the people that I know, and especially my family members that have worked in law enforcement, retirement is not the same as what other people think. It's like you guys are so used to the action of something to do every moment of your shift, and it's hard to just sit at home, twiddle your thumbs, and watch TV. So what was retirement like for you after such, busy days?
Well, it did take a little while to unwind, and had a nice talk with God and said, what are you going to do with me now? And I really didn't have any answers. I was a musician for, part of my life. And, I worked a lot of second fronts. Second fronts are just part-time jobs. And I did learn, I went to study under my master, Robert Pang. I did study Qigong for 3 years while I was working. So that kind of gave me a little direction on where I might go. But I would swear that going to the shelter in Wyoming County and volunteering to work with other canines was truly divine intervention, because I had no sights on that, but it was the greatest move of my life. It worked out so well for me. It just gave me a lot of joy. And I found out that discovery of Qigong energy and combined with canines was just such a discovery, such a magical discovery, that I use it every day, even now on my dog calls. And I kind of walk into a house and just start communicating with a dog with energy. You almost have to see it to believe it. I tell my clients I'm not going to use a lot of words while we're working here. And everybody's always very fascinated by this theory, method. But as far as retirement, I think I got over it pretty quick. Okay, that was then, now is now. Now I'm really having fun. I thought I was having a good time before. It's fantastic.
I love it. Now, did you get any education while you were dog training?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I started to get a lot of requests from outside the shelter of, I have a problematic dog, or I have a dog that bit my neighbor, or I have a dog that won't stop barking, or I have a dog that won't stop jumping on people, and can you help me? Well, I figured I'd better get some kind of paper to hang behind me, so I applied with the Penn Foster and got certified for not only just dog trainer but instructor. And just to cover myself and at least have it look like I know what I'm doing. But that was helpful too, yes, and it's paid off. And I also teach dog training at BOCES, And I have all my students take that class as well.
Now, during this time, we have a lot going on in the world, right? We're dealing with a global pandemic with COVID-19, and we have seen it surge and dip and surge and dip, hot spots here, there, and over there. It has just kind of sent us for a loop for many people, and we've had to learn to adjust to a new normal. With that being said, and you having worked with animals to a certain degree, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot when I ask, but we're now at home when our dogs were used to us being gone. We are now much more anxious or worried than we were perhaps 6, 7 months ago, or even a year ago. Are our dogs picking up on that energy? And if so, how is that making our dogs feel?
Dr. Chester, I can't thank you enough for asking that question. It just so happens that I'm very aware of the energy that's going on. And over the last 6 months, the home visits that I make are almost a majority of dog bites. I've never had so many dog bites. And the reason for this that I can guess, and only guess, is because people are more anxious. Everybody, not everybody, but people are more angry than they're used to being. And they're more tight. They're just stressed out. And we cannot lie to our dogs. If we're happy, they know it. If we're sad, they know it. If we're anxious, they know it. Because again, they're reading our energy. The problem is that these dogs are being very affected by our behavior. So guys, we gotta lighten up. Don't let the world get to us. And for the love of our puppies, we gotta kind of, just for their well-being, let's take it easy and sit back a little bit and relax. Everything's going to be fine. We all have faith, and we're all going to use it, and we're all going to get through this. Let's just help our puppies in the interim.
Oh, wow. Yes. Well said. Nailed it on that. That is so true. As much as they have been there for us in the past, it's now time for us to be there for them. You are so right. It has been just an interesting thing to see. I've seen my neighbors go out and about a lot more and walking their dogs and just trying to spend time with their dogs, and I think that is a beautiful thing. We all have smaller dogs. I have a Jack Russell Terrier, so we have smaller dogs, so we all can kind of parade around our neighborhood and just each one take a turn. And I think we enjoy kind of like the routine that we've built in. You know that this person is gonna walk at like 8 o'clock. This person's gonna go out at 11, and this person's gonna go out at 10. And it's kind of like, hey, neighbor, and it's still kind of building a different routine, but the joy of being able to see what new little outfit does this little dog have on, or, is this dog going to kind of talk to my dog, and all of that. So you're right. It's, adjusting, but being there for them as well. What a beautiful, beautiful way. Now, for some people, I know that they're alone. Perhaps they have moved away for a new job, and then COVID hit. So they haven't had an opportunity to really make a lot of friends. So the majority of their friends and family are back home in another state, and they're thinking about getting a pet. Even though we're dealing with COVID, is it wise? Is it okay? Should we go to a shelter and try to adopt a dog? Would that be an okay thing to do in this atmosphere?
I do believe it is. I do really, truly believe that, hey, they don't call those guys our best friends for nothing. This rescue that you're going to get to know and become best friends with is going to be the biggest light of your life. Just remember that it all just comes down to one giant element, and that's patience. You know, you can teach your dog to put up with being home alone for 8 hours, or you can teach your dog to any trick in the world if you are patient. You know, dogs don't bark naturally. Wolves don't bark. They howl. It was primitive man 10,000 years ago that started stealing the puppies from the wolves that taught the dogs how to bark, and that was to protect their camp, their encampment. We call that to this day the redneck doorbell. You know, our dogs bark, we get to know somebody's here. You know, so we just count on it. But the thing is, if we can, you know, in World War II, the Army was going to support the Marines and did not have one single dog. So they put a call out to just average families in America, and they were looking for 80 dogs, Rottweilers, Doberman Pinschers, and German Shepherds. And they got all 80 dogs volunteered to them. But now the soldier's job was to get, after 10,000 years of barking, to get your dogs not to bark because the enemy is going to be so close, and you're going to be in the islands in the South Pacific. But you know what? All 80 dogs passed. What that tells me is that we can teach our dogs to do anything we want if we're patient enough. And, you know, as far as tricks, I'll just say it's a great reason for treats to be invented. And if we give our dogs tricks to do, to them, it's a job. And when dogs get a job, they're the happiest creatures on earth.
Ah, I like that. Okay, so for them, it's a job. So, okay, I gotcha. I love that. I love that. You know, you mentioned a really beautiful word there, and that is patience. You know, you not only are teaching us about dogs, but I think you're giving us a really great reminder about simply being human. And that is, we need to be patient with one another. We need to be patient with our dogs. We need to be patient with the other people that we're kind of spending more time with in our home. So you are so right with that. Just to be patient. I know I love my little doggy, and I still call him little puppy even though he's 4. You know, and it's like, but I love him. He's such a sweetie. You know, and I tell him that. I look at that face and I go, who could say no to this face? You know, and it just makes you want to gush. So yeah, you are so right about that. Now, for so many of my authors, they feel as though, you know, I have shared my message with the world. I have walked in my purpose, and I am done. Others feel as though, you know, I wrote this book, but I think I kind of like it. So my next question to you is, how do you feel about writing? Do you think that there's going to be more books in your future, or is this it for you?
No, I'm glad you asked again. You got great questions. First, my second book is on its way to being done, and it's called Luke. Luke is one of the most amazing head cases I've ever had to deal with. When I met Luke, he was a true biter, and you couldn't get close to him. And believe it or not, I spent almost the entire week sitting in his cage with him, and have him spitting and growling and snarling at me. And the long story short, 6 years later, he now lives with me, and he loves everybody. So, yes, the second book is also an accumulation of many stories, just like the first book. But the main star of the book is Luke himself.
It's such a great name. That's a good name. You know, I like that name. So absolutely, he's gonna end up being an awesome dog. He has an awesome name. He's gonna be an awesome dog. I love it. I love it. Now it is we're almost out of time. We only have about a minute or so left in the show with you, Thomas, but I want to give you an opportunity, if you will, if there's any nugget of wisdom or piece of advice that you would like to share with our listeners today, be it that it's, something that they can do with their dog or how to better love on their dog, whatever you think is best. But I open up the floor for you right now.
Okay, I'd like to give you this. I teach any of my clients that the key word besides patience is direction. When you give your dog direction, it makes your dog feel safe. When your dog feels safe, your dog is happy. And when your dog is happy, every single one of your problems with your dog are going to go away.
Wow. Okay. I think that you have just made the light bulb go on for someone else. It's like direction. Got ya. Have direction. But isn't that just like us as human beings as well? We want direction. We want purpose. We want a job to do. So absolutely, if that's something that makes us happy, then it's going to make your dogs happy as well. I love it. Well, Thomas Purcell, thank you so much for coming on and sharing not only your books with us today, but for giving us some doggy wisdom as well and helping us be the best that we can be when it comes to dealing with our pets, loving on our pets, and just understanding the correlation between the two. Thank you so much. But before I let you go, one more time, if you could please remind everyone the title of your book, where we can get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you.
Okay, look up The Art of the Dog by Thomas Purcell. You'll find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or probably several other sites. But all I can tell you is happy reading, and you're going to enjoy the stories and learn a lot.
I love it. Thomas Purcell, thank you again for being on Daily Spark.
Thank you, Dr. Chester.
And listeners, of course, thank you as well for tuning in and spending time with me here today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.